Okay, so I'll just give a brief about how are we gonna do this session. So as I told you, this is a live virtual mock interview, right, guys? So here we have Drishti as as our mentor, the chief guest today. And it will go as we will be introducing Drishti to you. We will have a little bit of general discussion about how she got into Google and what you guys should be doing, and she will guide you that way. And after that, she'll be picking someone among the students to do a virtual mock interview so that you can learn, and then she'll share her feedback after that, like what should the students do, what should the student not do, because there are do's and don'ts that we need to follow during an interview, right, guys? And then we will also be taking some of your questions. And as we see the participants are increasing, we won't be able to take all of your questions. So sorry for that. But we will definitely pick up few questions that Drishti and we will think are very important and are needed to be addressed will be answered. And we will also save all your questions for tomorrow's event, and the best question will be selected for the tomorrow's event as well. We'll be analyzing your resumes, so in tomorrow's event we'll be picking up the best question by Drishti and our team. So we think we should get started in a while, so just we are waiting for a few more people to join. Okay, so let's get started. As I told you, the show, I am Kasturi Kaushik, your host and host for the day, and Rishti is our mentor for the day, and even tomorrow as well, because we don't want to lose her for just one session. So Drishti is a software engineer at Google. She has also interned at companies like Oracle in data science, and also in Amazon with Amazon Pay team. She is a graduate from BITS Pilani, Hyderabad. And the most interesting thing about her is she likes to watch cricket during her free time, right? So that we will hear more about this from her itself. And she also holds a minor degree in data science, as well as she has done her post-graduation in MSc in physics, as well as B from which I already mentioned, from BITS Pilani, Hyderabad. So she likes to watch cricket. She maybe likes to play badminton and not cricket. I don't know why, but she's also very passionate about teaching. So she is here with you, gonna teach you guys everything that she can. So Rishti, I would like to ask you to unmute yourself so that I can ask you some more interesting questions about yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Drishti and I'm here today to answer all your doubts and maybe have a discussion about software development, interviews, online tests, and different companies. So really excited to be here, and I would love to hear your questions and answer them.
Okay, so let the first turn should be my right. So I'm gonna ask you questions first, and then we'll let the students ask you more questions. And I think the participants would increase by that time, right? Okay, so as you mentioned, as I have mentioned that you're a software developer at Google. So what is your work like? So what do you have to usually do? Like what software, what projects are you working on in that department? Yes.
Okay, so basically, Google in India is based in 4 locations. I work for the Bangalore team, and there are different product areas. So one is YouTube, other is ads. Then there's Google Maps as well, and there are other product areas also which are based in India. I work with technical infrastructure product area. So I work in a sub team of it where our aim is to optimize the resources that the software engineers or the different product areas are using in Google. So obviously the demand increases, the customer base increases. So the need for resources also increases. The CPUs, the RAM that Google uses, Google has a lot of data centers, and this keeps increasing and there's no end to it. So our aim is to optimize the use of resources so that some product areas could share their resources. And it always happens that at every point in time, no one is using all the resources. So maybe share those resources amongst the product areas, amongst the teams, so that the resources that we are using are effectively used, and there's no need to keep on increasing the resources exponentially. So that's the aim of our team. It's a new team base. The base is in US. It's forming here in India. And there are a lot of team members there. Around 50, 60 members are there in the team who have started working actively on this particular product. It's an internal product, but really very helpful for Google. You're on mute, Christine.
Okay, yeah, sorry, that keeps happening. Okay, so you are there at Google after, studying at BITS Pilani, and, then did you get this through your placement, got placed during a placement? And how did you prepare for it? Because as a student, there's a hype. What if we do not get this? What should we do? Because there would be, students around you from your same batch, ki, they got placed in this company. I have to do
Yeah, that keeps
working on
happening.
the resume, and the professors that, okay, are you working on your resume? So what did you do, and like what was your strongest point that you think got you into Google, and what was the area that you thought you had to work on, like, to get into Google? Because everyone has, kind of a strong and a weak point, so that's why.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So I started off. It was COVID all, and there were companies who were not hiring that much. So there was kind of a tension. The situation is better now, but at that point, it was the COVID situation had just started, and there were companies who were withdrawing from placement. So that was a tense time. I started off. So I'm a dual degree student. I actually studied for 5 years. So I started my 5-1 with internship at Oracle, and I was there in the data science team. I like data science, and I'm confused between data science and software development at that point, and probably right now also it's that I like both of them. So I started off with Oracle, and I worked with the data science team. I built product recommenders, and I also worked a bit on test automation because since I had interest in software development, my manager told me maybe you should just take test automation as well. So I worked there, and at the last day of my internship, I was told that I'm getting a pre-placement offer. So that kind of reduced the tension that I had for those 5 or 6 months because COVID situation, competition, and there were a lot of factors. And obviously, the thought that there are a lot of people above you, and if you are able to do this, then there are thousands of people able to do it. And if you're not able to do it, again, there are thousands of people who are able to do it. So all those tensions, they kind of decreased. And after Oracle, I started applying off campus because I think most of the colleges have this policy that if you're placed at a particular company, you cannot apply for other companies, at least on campus. But off campus, there's nothing of that sort. And if you prepared, so I prepared for 5 or 6 months dedicatedly because I had that tension that in case I don't get an offer, then what? There should be a backup, right? So I started preparing for placements. I dedicated 6 to 7 months there, dedicatedly doing DSA only. I thought object-oriented programming, operating systems, all could be done in the last 10 days. And so I was just doing questions and questions for 6 to 7 months. And I thought, if I'm prepared, maybe try my luck off campus. So this happened. And then in the next semester, I started my internship at Amazon. And in the meanwhile, I was also applying off campus. There were various companies. I applied at JPMC for the control. I applied for BNY Mellon. I applied for Google as well. So the process started. I think the process started in November, and the resume shortlisting. Then there's a telephonic interview, and there are other interviews, which I'll tell in detail later on. So the process started, and it went on till February. And during my internship at Amazon only, I got to know that I was selected for Google and I got my offer letter. So that's it. There, I thought that this is the end. After this, I don't need to continue with other processes. So whatever processes were going on, I said I'm open for interviews, but right now I like to join Google. So things stopped there. The strongest point that I felt was during the interviews, I never thought that this question I have seen before, or I haven't seen before, or I don't. I didn't think that maybe I know the solution for this. I started the solution. I started thinking about the question from the beginning. Like I thought of the question, thought of the different approaches, and then thought it is a brand new question for me, and I have to attempt it. So that was the thing that I felt helped me because I did not keep the baggage of oh, I have done this question before. Oh, probably I did that question with this particular thing, with this particular data structure previously. I did not keep that baggage and thought of it as a brand new question. Obviously, there were some things going on. Maybe there was an intuition, use this data structure, use this data structure. I just took those intuitions, but then I increased my horizon also, that is thought of trying different approaches and communicating all of these approaches to the interviewer as well. Obviously, there are a lot of solutions for one problem. The time complexity and space complexity could be reduced from brute force to the most optimized version. So I explained whatever was going in my mind to the interviewer for all the questions. So that I felt was my strongest point. Weakest, I was really tensed about the competition. I think that happens with most of us, but it's like if I'm giving a test, um, I feel that there are a lot of people above me. So that was the tension that I had for those 6 7 months when I was preparing, and I felt that this took a bit of time. So if I'm doing a question, I would just think, oh, this question could be done by others as well. So that particular time which I spent on just thinking about the competition, maybe I could have utilized it somewhere else and did better on DSA. But that was the time when I was thinking, I was tense, and it happens. Like you keep thinking about what would happen in placements. What if I am unplaced? Those thoughts come every now and then, and those were the thoughts which I was not able to control, and I kept thinking about them for a long while. So that was the weakest area. And if I could go back in time, I would just say, just practice. Just don't think about what will be the output. Obviously, apply everywhere, but don't think about the output.
Okay, so it's like keep working hard and do not worry about the results, right?
Yeah, and especially the competition. Don't think that there are thousands of people above you. You are a unique one, and the interviewer also is going to see you and not the people who are above or below you. And there's no parameter, there's no scale where you could define that I am standing here, this person is above me, this person is below me. You cannot do that.
Okay. Yeah, right. And what I believe is, when we think about competition, we should not think about competition with someone else. We are our
Yeah,
biggest
exactly.
competitor, right?
Yeah, you
What
have to
we are
think
good.
about the competition with your own self.
Yeah.
Um,
How can we do better?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so
So
that's
that.
the thing. I'll probably say every one of you, don't think about the competition, the external competition. Think about your own competition with your own self. Don't be influenced by the other factors. If your friend just tells you, I did 10 questions today, or probably today was the online test, I did 4 questions, but in your heart, you know you did only 2 questions. Just have confidence on those 2 questions. It shouldn't be that you're thinking about all this for a while.
And sometimes it happens also, if you're thinking about those 10 questions and you actually know the answer to two also, you miss that also sometimes.
Yeah, right, right.
Exactly. So, okay. So you were telling me about your internship, right? You started with Oracle. So as an engineering student, how much do you think internships are important? Because we at Cantilever have seen students starting, prepping for internships from the first year itself. So how much do you think internships are important? Should
Intern,
students see
yeah.
internship at a level for getting a job or just brushing their skills? How should students approach?
So I feel internships are important, but it's not that if you don't have an internship, you won't be able to get a job. That's definitely not there. Internships are an added advantage, and internships actually help you understand the corporate culture because we have been studying. We have been working on small projects that are given in colleges and maybe some informal projects that we took under professors, maybe formals which we took under professors, but those projects are just projects. They are not something which are deployed or they are in production or they're used by someone or they don't have a customer base. So when you work in a company, you get to know how things work. So there's proper designing of the product or service that you have to build. There's a design phase, then there's a review phase. Then there are a lot of minds coming on it and thinking about whether this is feasible or not. There are technical discussions, there are product discussions with the product managers, with the software managers. So there's a whole lot process, and this is also very important. So you have to be in those discussions also. If you're designing a product, you have to write those docs, get them approved, make changes according to whatever is told, whatever is the feedback, and then start off building the product or service that you are working on. And then again, there would be setbacks at every point because you thought that this is going to happen, but this did not happen. So you have to come up with a backup. So you have discussions. It's not very straightforward. Like in your project, in your college project, you knew that you have to develop this and this, probably a hotel management system. You knew what to do, how to do. And if not, then you could probably Google it, get it from Stack Overflow, and just go ahead and do that project and complete it in a month or so. But it does not happen in companies. So companies have a whole lot different culture. That corporate culture, feel you're only going to get in your internships, and you're definitely going to learn a lot. So with each week, you definitely have something that you're learning. Every day is a learning experience in office, be it internship, be it job. And internships just give you that feel. Also, the best part in internship is you don't have that responsibility. You obviously have to prove yourself, but it's not that the product is on you. You're working with someone. You have a mentor, and getting a mentor is something you will actually be with a person who can guide you, who can tell you what needs to be done, who can also address your doubts. So that's a learning experience which you get with a mentor. Obviously your manager is also going to be very supportive because you're an intern, you've just come out of college, so things would be simpler for you and you will have a great learning experience. So internships in that way are really good, and also you get a pre-placement offer if you do well. So that's another motivation. Like if you get a pre-placement offer, you don't have to sit for placements, you don't have to go through that tension and everything. So internships in these two things are very good, but if you don't have it, that's not at all something that is going to hinder anything. You are still going to get placed if you work hard. So internships are important, but not necessary at all.
Okay. Right. Yeah. That is not very, it's like not a necessity of your life. Some students are, I didn't even get an internship, will I even get a job? Like that should not hinder their, motivation level that they
Yes,
want to achieve.
definitely.
Okay, so as I know that your passion is teaching and you're here to teach our students, so I would like to know you have experience in this field. So what do you think that students are basically fearing about? Like, what do they fear about? Like during interviews or technical round or HR round is something everyone is scared of. So what do you think that students from engineering colleges so should start prepping like in the third and the final year? What is that you think that should be there? Because the industry is usually changing, they come up with different expectations every year, every time as the industry evolves. So what do you think is should be the skill that the student should have?
So for software development specifically, I think obviously you need to have computer fundamentals with you. You need object-oriented programming, operating systems, maybe DBMS, computer networks. All these things are quite good. If you have knowledge about these, it's very important, and probably this will help you in interviews. But the only important thing that you can get selected if you just have that particular thing is DSA, data science and algorithms. Sorry, data structures and algorithms. So data structures and algorithms is something which every company sees, because DSA is the only way where the companies could find out what are your problem solving skills. Then they need problem solvers. Uh, Companies have a whole lot of problems. They have problems on products, on services, on pipelines. They have a lot of problems, but they want problem solvers. And once they have those problem solvers with decent coding skills, then they'll be done. They will be able to work on their service or product and get it delivered. So the thing that I feel is important for all the companies, and companies would definitely look at it, is DSA. I would say for Google, there was no round where I was asked anything about my resume, or there was anything that I was asked about object-oriented programming or operating systems. All the interviews were just on DSA, where there were 45, 60 minutes given, and there were 2 or 3 questions that I had to discuss with the interviewer. Obviously, your resume plays a role for resume shortlisting. And probably when you are finally in the last stage, it plays a role there. But the thing that is going to get you placed would at the end be data structures and algorithms. And the more you practice, the better it would be. It's not that if you've done 600 questions, it's not that if one of the questions comes in the interview or online test, you'll be able to crack it. It's not that you have to do so many questions just to get a familiar question in your interview. That's not the case. The case is if you've done so many questions, you have got so many ideas, you have got so many approaches to attempt a question. So whenever you see a question, try to be confident that yes, you know things, and try to see it as a brand new question where you could approach it with different techniques, and then go with the technique which you find would be suitable and lead me to the right solution. So maybe DSA is the thing that, if even if you are in your second year, even if you're in your third year, and obviously if you're in your fourth year, you have to work on this. Take each topic, prepare it for a while, and also focus on the weak areas. Like my weak area was dynamic programming, my weak area was also graphs. Dynamic programming, I was able to conquer the fear, but for graphs I still fear. So that's something you have to keep practicing. I actually dedicated 20 days before my placements for dynamic programming only, where I was just doing dynamic programming questions. So identify your weak areas and then probably work on them.
Okay, right. So I think the students are actually listening to you and they would start practicing on this. And CantileverLabs do have a course which contains DSA syllabus. So guys, I will tell you about that after a mock interview that we are going to have with Avinav, I suppose, is the one that you picked. So I think that I will leave you to with Avinav and, get started with the mock interview. Avinav, can you switch on the camera?
And if you have any questions related to
Yeah.
whatever discussion we had, just put it out in the chat. We'll address it after the mock interview.
Yeah, until and unless the mock interview is going on, please, pay attention to the interview. And also, if you have any questions or any doubt that comes in between the interview, you can just drop it in the chat box so that we can get back to you with the, important questions.
And yes, even if you get to know the approach of the question, then please put it in the chat. We can discuss it after the mock interview. But yes, we'll let Abhinav do the code.
At least we'll see how does one mock interview goes, and let's see what does the student does. Yeah.
Okay, let's get started.
Yeah, I think Avinav, are you there? Please,
Yes, ma'am.
Or yeah. So all the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just a mock interview, so let's see how well you perform. So all the best, and I'll ask everyone to keep taking notes and put on your questions in the chat box so that we can get back to you. Yeah.
Okay, Abhinav. So
Good evening,
let's
ma'am.
start. Yeah. Hi. Could you introduce yourself just for a while?
Good evening, ma'am. I am Abhinav Raj, and I'm from Patna, Bihar. I'm currently pursuing Bachelor's of Technology in Electrical Engineering from IIT ISM Dhanbad.
That's great. Okay, so maybe let's start off with a question. You could share your screen and open the portal, and then I'll tell you the question.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, my screen sharing is disabled.
Maybe Kasturi could help.
Oh, yes. Just a second. I'll help you with that. Okay. Can you try Abhinav now?
Yeah. Is it visible?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So
you can open the CantileverLabs portal. You can open the questions. Yes, group by difficulty. And I think it's the last one. Could you scroll down? It's trapping rainwater. Yeah, you see it here in the right side. Just scroll up a bit. In difficulty as hard, the last question. Yes. So
okay,
this is the question. Do you want me to explain it?
Okay, I will read the question.
Yeah. Okay.
So n non-negative integers are given representing elevation in the map, where width of each bar is 1. Compute how much water it can trap after raining.
Maybe we could take the input that's given here, 0, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Yeah.
So you can think about it for a minute or so, and then maybe let's start discussing the approach that you have in your mind.
Okay, ma'am.
So you're given an array and you have to find the water that could be trapped.
Yeah. So any given number in the array is actually the elevation of the ground in that area. And it's like if we start from the beginning of the array.
So initially there's a 0 there, as you see in the graph. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm missing something.
Yeah. So basically, what you could see is for a particular element, you probably need to see the left and the right of it, and then figure out what
so the height of
yeah.
the trapped water between those two elements will be the minimum of the given element. Like here
Minimum of the left, maximum of the left, and maximum of the right.
Like among these three, the minimum is 1, so the trapped water between no, sorry. Among these three.
So you see, if you just focus on the 0, that is the index 2. So to the left, you have a 1. To the right, you have a 2. So so obviously you cannot have water of height 2 at that index 0. Why? Because that water will flow away. There's only place for water of maybe units 1 to be there. So you're seeing the left, you're seeing the right, and then figuring out which is the smaller out of the two.
Yeah, so for this the second index, the minimum of the left and right is 1, so the height of the water will be 1.
What about maybe let's see the one which is before 3.
Yeah, so the
so to the right there is 3.
So to the right the maximum is 3. And to the left it is 2.
So you take the minimum out of those two, that is minimum of 2 and 3.
That is 2, and then we will between these two values we will add between these two values we will take every element and we will add to the total amount of water this the minimum that we got, that is 2, and that element between them.
That element is 1, so you will do 2 minus 1 because 1 is already filled, right? So
Yes.
there's only space for one being filled. So 2 minus 1, that's 1 is the space, is the water that you could fill there. Again, let's take 2. Okay, the last, we have 1 to 1. So let's take the last third index. Yeah.
The 1.
The 1. Yeah.
So the right highest in the right part is 2 and the highest in the left part is 1.
Highest in the left part is 3.
Sorry,
right?
3. Sorry, 3. So the minimum of the both is 2. And then we will iterate from every element.
We'll just see. No, we don't have to iterate. We have to just see that particular element is 1, right? And the minimum is 2. So 1 is already filled, but we could fill till 2. So if you just take the difference of 2 and 1, you're going to get the water that you could fill above that particular 1.
Yes. Yeah. So we will we can do what we can do is we can iterate from in the array from in every element. We will take we will find the highest point in the left part and the highest point in the right part. Then we will find the minimum of the two. And then we will add to the total amount of water, that minimum minus the value at that index which we are taking.
Yes, seems good. So for finding out the minimum to the left, sorry, the maximum to the left and maximum to the right, what are you going to use?
So we can for any index we can iterate from that index -1 to 0 index, or that index +1 to the last index to find the maximum on both sides. So it will take n square time.
Okay.
And then we have to do this for all the elements in the array. So the total time will be n cube in order of n cube.
Why would it be n cube? Because for one particular element, you're traversing the array to the left and the array to the right.
Yeah.
So it's the entire array you're traversing for one particular element. And for all elements, you'll be traversing the array once.
Okay, yeah, so n squared, sorry.
Okay, seems good.
Yeah.
Can we do better than this?
Yes, actually, I was thinking of that approach only in the beginning. This was the obvious approach. But that approach, I'm missing something. I'm not able to figure out.
Maybe we could have, we could store the values, store the maximum to the left and maximum to the right.
Yeah, so we can create a new array, and at every position we can update, we can fill in the maximum till that
particular index,
and we will fill the array from beginning to the end. Yes, yeah, so that array will act as a memo, and then we can do one iteration in the given array, and we will look up just n-1 and
yeah, maybe
n-1 or the last, I guess, the nth sorry, if we are in the given array, if we are taking I index, then we will look in that let's say the DP array. We will look in the DP array for value on the index n-1. So that will be the maximum till the given index, and for the maximum on the right hand side we can take the value in n-1 position, I guess. We can figure that out later.
Yeah, maybe we could start coding it so that we probably have the solution here, and then we could discuss. We could start off it.
So I'll just name I'll just name this new array.
You're going to use Java?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, you want to use Okay, you want to use C++. Okay.
C++.
Yeah.
So I will just give this a new array the name memo. First
Okay.
sorry. First, I'll store the size of the given array.
Will the name size work?
I think it's a reserved word, so
Okay.
SZ.
Okay.
Then I'll create a memo array.
Okay, and now one question. Do
Sorry.
you need one array or two arrays? Or can you do the thing in one array only?
That I think I'll have to figure out because I was thinking that we can just take the n-1th element for the maximum in the right, but I think we'll have to take two arrays. Like for the left part, what we just did, like we are going to iterate from the left hand side, and update each element for the maximum. So for the right hand side, we will do the same thing and update from right side.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So let me just rename it left.
Yeah, left. Okay. Also, you're trying to use vectors or?
Let me just create a vector.
Okay. Okay. Now our aim is to fill these two vectors.
Yes. So we'll start from for the maximum from the left hand side.
Okay.
So and we'll push. We are talking about maximum, so we can fill it with int min. Oh, wait a minute now.
Okay. You can initialize it to 0 as well because
yeah, it's
zero
non-negative. So
yeah.
Now we'll just fill the left. So we can initialize. So I took the leftmost and the rightmost as left and right element. So we'll just for the left part. Sorry.
Maybe you could iterate from I is equals to 1.
1.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that would do. Okay.
And we start from 1, and if the height I is greater than LF, then we can just
so for what is left of I? It is the maximum element till maybe
till the ith index.
Okay. So we could use the previous answer. If you're using, if you want left of I, you can compare the element which is there at that particular
we can
index
do that too.
And the previous. Yeah.
So we can do that too, but I have made another variable.
Yeah.
So left I is height of I, and if that is the case, then I will also have to update Yeah, I'll also have to update LF.
And if this is not the case, then?
It's not the case, then left I is equals to left I minus 1. We'll do the
Could we
same
write
for
this entire thing in one statement?
the entire this for loop.
The if else condition.
Yeah, by ternary operation we can do.
We can use max also.
Yeah, we can do that too.
So left of I would be max of height of I, comma.
That left height of I, comma, left of I, left of I minus 1.
Yes, that would also work. Yeah.
Again, we'll do the
If you
same
want, you can keep it here also. Yeah.
We can do the same for the right. We will start from the rightmost element till the leftmost.
Yeah.
No, this is the same. RT. Right I equals height I.
There's one error. One more.
Sorry. Yes, it should be I minus 1, I guess.
In the last loop, there's one small error. The first line itself in the loop, line 25.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So we filled both the
okay, now we've filled both the arrays.
Now we will iterate for each elements. We will create a global total water equals 0. And now let's start with 1. I guess it will not make any difference. Okay, let's see. I don't think it will make any difference.
You can use I is equals to 0 also, or I is equals to 1. Fine.
But I want to access the I minus 1 index of left.
But we have figured out the maximum element till that particular index, right?
Yeah.
We could use that as well.
Okay, let me.
If you want, you can use I minus 1. That would also work. Yeah.
Right. So total water will be equal to minimum of left I minus 1, right I plus 1, minus height I.
Okay. You need to add total water because you need to keep updating it. Yeah.
So let me test it. Should I? So I have to print, I guess.
You can return it also, because it's a function, right? Intra.
Mm,
Okay, maybe try it
You
now.
you need to return the total water. Move that C out state. Cool.
So it's 9.
yeah. I think it's correct. Output should be 9. Let's test this. Can we test?
So there's one test case that's failing, and this is the one. What you could do is, in this particular case, try to print the left array and the right array. Yeah, this would work. Maybe there are few compilers where NDL does not work. Okay, we could see here.
Yeah.
You can see it in the output as well. So yeah, if you see this and compare it with the height array.
Yeah. So the first is 0. That's fine. Then 1 again 1. Then 2. It's fine. 2. Till 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So till 8, it's 2. Then it's 3. This 4 is, I guess, the returned answer.
So your left array seems to be fine. Now, what about the right array?
It's not starting. Okay, right array is starting like this. So 1, 2, 2, 2, and 3. It's also fine.
Sure. Yes.
This is
Sure or not?
fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay, fine. Then, so the first
Mm,
two things are fine. The first two loops that you used, they're fine.
yeah.
The only problem could be in the third final thing.
The last one. Let me put this. So the minimum of okay. So let's start from 1. So the minimum of 0 and 2, that is 0 minus height of I. Okay. So if the height on either side, left or right, is less than the index, the value at the index, then it's going negative.
Correct. So what you need to do?
So I'll add a condition here.
You could use min or max also. So compare it with zero value. If you take max of 0, comma, this particular thing.
Yeah.
Have you closed the bracket at the end?
Ma'am, it's not scrolling in right direction.
Oh, okay. So what you could, yeah. Okay.
No, it's not returning any.
What's the error here? You could print total water also, or you could print this particular, like for each iteration, print it and see where you're getting the problem. The first two parts seem to be fine.
So for I equals 1, we get total water equals 2.
Left of I minus 1 is?
Left of I minus 1 is 0. Right of I plus 1 is 0. And
Right of I plus 1 is?
so I is 1. So right of I plus 1 is right of 2.
Maximum
Sorry.
to the
Yeah.
right.
So, ma'am, will you give me a moment? I want to change. So, actually, I'm not comfortable here. I'll move to some other room.
You want to change the compiler?
No, ma'am, I'm actually not comfortable here. I want to move to some other room.
Okay.
How I'm not able to maximize this. Wait a minute.
So meanwhile, no, Abhinav settles down. Oh, Abhinav is here.
Sorry for that. So yeah, the maximum is actually 1. So that's all.
So left of I minus 1 is basically 0. Right of I plus 1 is?
So 1 and minus height is 0. So it will be 0. It should be 0. Left is 0. Right one is 1. And minus height, that is 1. It's 0. So it should be 0.
Okay. So maybe print left of I minus 1, right of I plus 1, and height of I. And then see why you're getting 2.
Yeah.
So it's saying left of I minus 1 is 4.
Ma'am, actually it's not C change line. C out is not working. And that NL is not working, so it is very difficult to debug.
Okay, okay. Yeah, NDL is not going to work.
Also, it's not scrolling horizontally. Okay, I can do. So here we see 0 here. So left of I minus 1 is 0. Right of I plus 1 is 3.
And total water is 0, right?
Yeah, total water is 0. It should be 0, but right is not
Right
correct.
should be 3. Right should be 3.
Oh yeah, right
Because
should be 3.
it's yeah.
We are coming from right side. So water is 0 here. Then again, for the next iteration, the left is 1. It should be 1. Right is 3 again, 3. And here one water is filled, so this 1. Again, for the index, third index, left is 1, right is 3.
It would still remain the 1.
1 because,
because
we are getting 0 here, total water. We are not incrementing anything. Again, the left is 2. That's correct. Right is 3. And right is 3, and we get water 2. That's problem, I guess. It should be 1. Ma'am, it is difficult. I am missing.
So you're comparing left of I minus 1 and right of I plus 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these two are compared. Now you're taking minimum out of these and subtracting it with height of I.
Yeah.
And then figuring out whether it's greater or it's equal to.
No, it's correct. Actually, here the water was 1, and here it is 2. So it's correct. Then for another iteration, this left is 2, right is 3, and we increment water by 2 here. We can see it's 2. Then 5, and that's correct.
Yes.
Then 5, 5, 2 times 5. And then we get 6. That is not correct. So
this 6 is for which index?
It got mixed up again.
You can print I as well if you want.
Ma'am, Handle is not working. It is making very difficult.
I understand. Okay, let's pause here. I think I've got your approach. So the approach that you're doing is fine. Could you tell me the time and the space complexities here?
Yeah, so we are using 2 different arrays. So space complexity will be O of n. We are doing nothing more. And for time complexity, in this loop, we are iterating over n times. Same is here, n times. In this one again, n times.
So
it should be O of n.
Okay, so time complexity and space complexity both are O of n.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you optimize it further? Like, is there anything that you could do? Can you reduce time complexity, first of all?
From O of n. Okay.
Just a question. I'm just asking you, not implying anything.
I don't think, ma'am.
Okay,
I'm
and can
not
you
sure.
reduce the space complexity?
I'm not sure, ma'am. I'm not getting any better approach than this.
Okay, seems good. So let's pause here. I feel your logic is fine, but I think there's some
Debugging is a bit
problem.
difficult
Yeah,
because
I
various
understand.
things are not
Maybe
working.
there's some thing with the compiler as well. So
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. So you said time complexity is O of n, space complexity is O of n. And obviously, you said time complexity cannot be optimized further, but do you think space complexity could be reduced further?
Mm,
Do we need the entire array? That is, do we need the left array and the right array, both?
for every index, we need just two values, that is a leftmost maximum and rightmost maximum.
Yes. Yes.
So we will need at least one array because they are different for different index of the given array, left and right max. So
Okay.
I guess we
Okay.
need array.
Okay. Seems good. Fine. So let's pause the interview here, and you can stop sharing screen. It's fine. That compilation issue is not a big thing because I understand. That's completely fine. Yeah. So that's it for the interview. The feedback that I'll have for you is, yes, you're able to code it. You're able to explain the approach. Probably a bit more of trying to think about different approaches. So yes, this was a thing that came, but you could have optimized it further with the two-pointer approach. Obviously, it's a hard level question. It's kind of getting to this solution is also very good, but the space complexity could be further optimized by using a two-pointer approach. That is, for you have a left max and a right max. So basically, you start from left and right, and then try to go and go, and in that way you won't need the array. So if you're comparing left max and right max, and if your left max is, let's say, smaller than your right max, right max is the point till this index and left max is the point till the left. So if your left max is smaller than your right max, so you don't need the element to the right. You don't need the maximum element that is the maximum of the right, because you know the left one is smaller. So when you are going to take the minimum of the left and the right, definitely your answer would be the left answer. You don't need the right one. So you could have optimized it further using a two-pointer approach. I understand it's kind of a Google interview question. So the way you presented it was good, but maybe a bit more practice, maybe trying to think about different approaches. This is one of the approach. There could be other approaches also. You could use stacks as well. You could also think about it from trying to have just a variable which stores the previous indices, and then first move to the left, from left to right, and then from right to left. So that there are different approaches in which you could solve this problem. And this is one of the approaches where you have time complexity and space complexity to be O of n, but space complexity could be reduced to O of 1. And yes, you started off with brute force, you went till kind of an optimized version, but you could have optimized it further. Coding was good. You were able to code it well. That was a compiler issue, so no problems there. Things seem good, but a bit of more practice. And yes, interviewers try to give you hints when you're stuck. So you need to figure out what is the hint and where the interviewer is just cross-questioning you. So I asked you at some places, are you sure? It was just to check whether you're sure about your approach or not. So if you feel that your approach is fine, just say, yes, it was fine, or yes, it is fine. And this is why I think so. So, and also probably try to explain your approach with the dry run of an example, which you already did. So that was a good attempt. I really liked it. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So we could
Great,
take up
ma'am.
questions now.
Yeah, sure. As we're left with a couple of participants, I just want to add a couple of things. Whenever an interviewer asks a question, I mean, to be honest, this went too technical. I mean, whenever the interviews happen, especially for the top tech companies, what is the approach? I mean, what exactly is the interviewer willing to know from trying to extract from the candidate? Is it the logic? It is the approach? Is it the the attitude, or is it I mean, is there any kind of a guru mantra in order to?
Yeah, I get it. So what I would say is, whenever you are given a problem, yes, in most of the technical interviews, you will be given one or two problems. It depends on the company. There could be two problems that you're coding like this. Right now, because it's the virtual scenario, you will probably be doing it like this. In case it's not, then it turns out that you are trying to write it on paper. So that's a difference. But we start off with a question, then we discuss the approach. Basically, the interviewer wants the approach. And if you have the approach correctly, then only the interviewer asks you to code. So if you have done the approach, if you've told the correct approach, then only the interviewer would say, let's code it now. So if the interviewer is saying, let's code it now, it means that you've explained the right approach. And probably this is going to lead to the right solution. So the first thing is understanding the problem. Obviously, if there are cross questions, the cross questions could have been asked here are what are the constraints, because constraints were not mentioned, right? So constraints is something that could have been asked as a cross question. And if you want to clarify the question, then definitely have some questions to the interviewer so that you're very well familiar with the question, and then probably take a minute or so, and then whatever approach comes to your mind, then start off discussing that. Once you have the approach in your mind, explain it to the interviewer. If the interviewer feels that there's something missing there, then he'll ask you questions and he'll try to bring you to the right path. We had a discussion about the approach, and we were kind of trying to get to the right approach. And once we have done that, then only you'll start coding. And then this second part where you start coding, the interviewer wants to know whether are you able to code it properly or not. Obviously, it's not necessary that you write the code in minimum number of lines, but whatever you write, it should be good enough. So missing semicolons, missing parentheses, this is something which it definitely does not give a good impact. So those are the things that you should avoid, and that would only come with practice. The solution that he wrote was kind of 35-40 lines, and this told me that yes, he can code properly. And then once you have the code done, then you definitely will be asked questions on the time complexity, the space complexity, and so on. And then optimizations. It may happen that you don't have to code the optimization. I would haven't asked to code the optimized version, but I would definitely have thought we could have discussed the optimized approach also. So that's how it would go in an interview. This was one of the really hard questions, and Abhinav gave a kind of reached the right solution. And yes, I would say that this is the right thing. And it's just that maybe a bit more practice to all, not only to Abhinav, but to all, a bit more practice. And yes, a bit more confidence also, I would say. I think Abhinav got a bit nervous seeing this question because it's a hard level problem. Was it the case?
Ma'am, actually, I jumped right into the optimized version. Actually, the brute force version was obvious, and I did not, discuss that approach, but I just started thinking like how to do it in O and time and that all thing. So I got stuck there.
Yeah,
so
that's fine. But yeah, start from the brute force, because the interviewer wants to know where you're coming from. It's the right, there's no right answer to a question in an interview. It's the process that leads you to the solution. So that's really important. it's fine if you're thinking about the optimized version from the first minute only, but then discuss the brute force then. But since this has higher time complexity, I'll take off probably trying to do it simpler. I'll try to reduce the time complexity, or maybe I could use arrays, and maybe I could use something else, and then move on to different approaches. Obviously the interviewer would be interested in the approach that is going to lead you to the right solution, but you could always tell whatever thoughts are coming in your mind. So yeah, thought process is important. The way you reach the right solution is also important. And as I said, there's nothing the perfect solution that could be. You have what the interviewer is going to assess is something which would be from first minute what you are saying, what you're thinking, till the last minute, till the minute that you quoted the answer. So this entire thing is a journey, and the interviewer keeps making notes. So it's not that they are going to it's not that if you miss something or you did something wrong in between, they're going to miss that. They are definitely going to make notes for each and everything and then document in a feedback. So they have proper feedback notes or questionnaire that they have to fill. So everything would be important. And if you did something well in between the interview, or if you made a mistake somewhere, everything is going to be documented, and that is going to be presented to the committee which is sitting for hiring.
So is there any last moment strategy? I mean, before approaching interview, any kind of homework that a candidate can do, before approaching?
What I would say is some mock interviews like these. So some interviews where you are just given a question randomly. You might have solved a question before. It may have happened that you get a brand new question. But if you get a question on spot with a person sitting in front of you, and then he or she tells you to just let me know what you're going to do with this problem. You're just given a problem at hand, and then you have to do things, discuss it, express your solutions and your approaches to that person. Then that person will have cross questions. So this is something that is probably going to help, because you'll understand how to communicate effectively. You'll understand how do you need to present your answer in an interview. How do you need to code? If you make mistakes, you're not going to make those mistakes again in your actual interviews. So these are the last things that you could do. Have mock interviews. 3 or 4 mock interviews is probably going to give you confidence. And then the actual interview would feel like, oh, it's another setup where I just have a person who's going to assess me actually. Like, it's not a mock one. The only difference would be that, but you will be used to the entire process. So mock interviews. And one more thing I would say is, so if you're applying for XYZ company and your, let's say, interview is scheduled maybe 3 days after. So what you could do is try to take all the previous year questions. It's not that they're going to repeat. I'm not saying that you will find the same question again. But what would happen is you'll get to know the ideas, the areas from which the problems come. So it generally happens that a company focuses on some areas. So you'll get to know which are the areas that you could expect questions from. And obviously, if you do the previous year questions, they'll be of all of the same format. They'll have some tricks, they'll have something. So you'll get to know what is the level you can expect. And even if you don't get the same level, it's fine. But you'll definitely have done your homework. So that homework is important, which will lead you to your interviews.
So at last, At last, I would like to add one thing. Like, most of the students, they have this fear of coding. I mean, whenever a problem statement is given to them, definitely practice is the key. But how to eliminate this fear? I mean, to be honest, like, many a times the size of the question or people get fumbled there. I mean, they get really scared. So in order to avoid that or get nervous, what is the secret? What should be the practice?
I feel some nervousness is fine. So if you're nervous about how I'm going to perform, and it's just a small proportion, it's fine. It's not something that would hamper your progress in the interview. But being just nervous, oh, I wouldn't have seen the question before, oh, this is something which probably I saw, but I don't remember right now. What should I do? And then if the interview gives you 2 minutes to think, you keep thinking about, oh, what should I say? What should I do? You're wasting that time. Instead of thinking about all this, you could start treating this question as a brand new question. Think of it that this is something that has come to me as a problem, and I'm the problem solver. I have to solve this. Also, it's not that there's only one right solution. You could come up with something so different that it does not exist. The interviewer does not know about it, and if you tell that, then the interviewer will be highly impressed. So my suggestion would be to treat every question, whether you've done it, whether you've not done it, as a brand new question. And always try to think about the time and the space complexities. You start off with the brute force approach, think about the time and the space complexity. And it may happen that the interviewer feels that this is something that could be done. And as you said, as we thought that if the constraints were here, you could have asked me the constraints. If the constraints were something very small, probably your brute force approach would have also worked. Obviously, I did not have in mind that I'll say that the brute force is good, but still it may happen that the brute force is also something really decent. So start off with brute force and then try to tell all the approaches, try to tell everything that is in your head, and think individually. Like, don't think that this is something that I've done before, this is something that that others know, this is something that probably I'll not be able to do. This is because this is a question that I know is not very simple. All these thoughts, just keep it away, treat it as a brand new question, and probably you'll get to something which actually is commendable, which the interviewer will really be impressed with. So so those negative thoughts are something which hamper your code, which hamper your approaches. Keep those negative things aside. Just focus on doing that question. So if you just focus on that particular thing, I have to do this question, this is what will give me a job. Just treat this as the last question that you need to solve, no matter what happens, but you need to solve this. And be it any approach, I have to do this. That is the if you keep that approach, if you keep that thinking, then that thinking would also be appreciated, and you definitely reach the right thing also. And yes, keep coding the previous year questions, keep coding all the questions that you feel like. There are some questions that are definitely you can say hot questions which you could see in interviews. One of them is this: you have LRU cache, LFU cache, you have 2-number sum, you have 4-number sum, you have these are some questions which versions of this or this question you can see in an interview. Obviously not the direct question, but maybe a modified version of this. So keep practicing these questions, and if you feel that you're weak at one particular topic, do it. It's not that if you get a DP question, you will be afraid, oh, this is a DP question, I can't do it. You have to say that, yes, it's a DP question. I have practiced a lot. I was weak before, but I have practiced so much that now I can code this. I could code any DP question that comes to me. It may take 1 week, it may take 15 days, but you will excel in that if you do a lot of questions for your weak topics. So those are the things that you should keep in your mind. I think Mohammed has a question.
Yeah, so I was just asking, what do you think is the most important topic for a coding interview? Like in my case, I'm good at arrays, but I'm not very good at graphs or trees. So like, what is the mostly asked topic in coding interviews? Like, what do you think is very much?
Actually, honestly, I did not get any graphs question till now in my interviews. It could be my personal opinion, but I would say the questions generally come from arrays. They come from like using 2-pointer approach with arrays, or using something greedy algorithm with arrays. So combining arrays with something else. Obviously, you could use stacks and queues also for a particular problem. So it won't be like if you're given a question, you will have to figure out what is the data structure I want to exactly use here. So arrays combined with others are something which can come. I would say tree traversals are important. Binary search is also very important because you have different versions of binary search which come as questions in interviews. I would also say dynamic programming is needed. Obviously, you should learn dynamic programming, do questions related to dynamic programming because you can find them. But till now, I haven't seen graphs. And if you get graphs in an interview, then probably there's a lot of the interviewer is expecting a lot out of you. So if you're getting graphs, it's something that you will have to do it. So spend time on graphs, but I wouldn't say that spend all the time on graphs. So focus on other areas also. And yes, in graphs, you should know all the different, the union, the disjoint, then the Dijkstra's, the minimum spanning tree. These are some things that you should definitely know. And if you know all these basic algorithms and you get a graph question, you could probably use these algorithms and figure out the answer. So that would also help. It's not that you have to reach the solution that the interviewer is thinking about. If you have the background knowledge, you could come up to something. But yes, arrays, then binary search, arrays with some greedy algorithm, divide and conquer, something of that sort, stacks and queues also. These are some things which you can definitely expect. I would say binary trees also. Sometimes I saw in Amazon that binary search trees were also asked. So version of binary search tree is also something you could do. Dynamic programming is something which again is there. But yeah, I'll keep graphs to be the last priority. But that does not mean that I'm implying that you don't study graphs. It's that you have to study graphs, but even if you're a bit weak at that, it would work. That's what I mean.
Yeah, right. Right, great.
Yeah.
And also, I would like to understand, how to select the right programming language. Many a times people feel that they are very comfortable at solving a particular question in language, but how to figure out that which question will be, many a times the language, selecting the language also plays an important role, I feel. So is there any approach, right approach, how to solve a particular question and which language should be selected for that?
So most of the people, they pick up one language and they start coding in that. Some actually take two languages and then they analyze the problem, and then based on the problem, they see which would give me an easier answer, and then they go with that. Both the approaches are fine. If you pick up one language, that's also fine. If you have two languages in which you are selecting one depending on the question, that's also fine. I personally feel the first one is a better one because you have clarity. You have solved all the questions in that particular language. So I feel that is a better one. But if you're comfortable with two and you're confident at it, then definitely go with it. Apart from that, I feel that there are only four feasible options, I guess: C, C++, Java, and Python. Mostly people prefer C++ and Java. C, I wouldn't recommend at all because there you don't have directly to use queues. You don't have stacks. You'll have to code all of them. So even a small problem could become very lengthy because there you don't have something like SQL. So that would become lengthy. So in case you're coding in C, I would say move to C++ because C++ is a version of C only. So if you know C, you will be able to learn C++ faster. So if you are confused between C and C++, definitely go for C++. If you're confused between C++ and Java, it is your personal choice which you want to choose. And many people, they do coding in Python, but again, it's their personal choice. But sometimes things don't exist in Python, the things that exist for C++ and Java. So if you have, if you are open to all these languages, my preference would be one out of C++ and Java. Second would be Python, and the third would be C. And I would just recommend don't use C.
All right, all right. So that was very insightful, and hope Abhinav, it was a very helpful session for you. If you have
Yeah.
any specific questions or any points where you felt that, as Drishti ma'am has already, given you a great clarity about the areas that you can improve. So I would say that it was a great session, and we'll be frequently conducting such kind of sessions for all the students, because uh, having an expert herself from the industry, getting the experiential learning that we say, that you're getting something to learn directly from the expert, and it was really helpful for all the students. And anything that you want to add, Drishti and Abhinav?
I would say I was really happy with the way Abhinav did the question. I would definitely say it is a hard level question, and the way you attempted was commendable. And I feel you're kind of ready for the actual interviews. So, specific to Abhinav, things were great. You were able to explain everything, explain the approach, and then even convert it into code. So, converting into code is also something which is a skill, and you were able to do that. So, I feel it was absolutely good on your part, and I feel it was good, and maybe you're interview ready now, and you could actually crack companies soon.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I have to ask something. Actually, what is the role of the projects that we make or that we add to our resume? How much importance should we give to them?
In your resume.
Because we are told that you should have at least 2 good projects, but how much deep knowledge about the all of the tech stack that we have used we need to have, or we are just supposed to explain the project what we have done, or we need to know uh, more about the tech stack that we have used. So what is the
So,
balance? How much should we know? How much should we give that time in those things?
Yeah, so you probably mentioned 2 or 3 projects and probably an internship experience that you have. So there are 3 or 4 things that you would have worked on and you've put in your resume. Now, whatever you are writing in your resume, there should be it should be written in 2 or 3 bullet points that this is what you did, this is what you've done. So something of that sort for all the projects and internships. Now, when the interviewer sees those, he or she will definitely ask you to explain like what you exactly did. So there, what you need to say is what was the problem statement that I picked, how did I approach the problem, then how I started solving it, maybe some difficulties which came in the path, and then how you address them. The questions that could come up are not very technical. Like they won't, if you've used, let's say, if you use CNN, they won't go to the details of CNN, like what is CNN, and obviously what is CNN is a simple question, but the mathematics of CNN and why did you choose this, and um, like what is the in-depth knowledge of the CNN, and how did you code it? Can you tell me the code, and how much time did it take to? All these coding questions are not going to come on that particular topic. The questions that could be, what is this? Whatever words that you've used, be it CNN, we've used MongoDB. If you use MongoDB, why didn't you use SQL? So what's the difference between MongoDB and SQL? Something of this sort. And then basically, if you use something, why did you choose this? And what are the things that you could improve on this project? These are the things that could be definitely asked in interviews. But yes, the in-depth knowledge of a particular thing that you did, because you did it in 1 month, right? 1 or 2 months, or even more than that. So you cannot remember everything, but I would say for every project or internship, have notes, have a 1-pager where you're explaining everything. What was the project, how you did it, what's the significance of this project, what other improvements that you could do. So if you use CNN, the improvement could be you could use RNN also. Just one example. So maybe if you used, let's say, one particular algorithm. You could have used an advanced version. So if you used YOLO version 3, you could have changed it to a better version also. So something of this sort are the improvements that you could have done. And obviously what accuracy you are getting, something of that sort. What are the evaluation metrics that you used? Did you use accuracy in case it's something related to data science? But if it's something related, like you made a net banking portal or a hotel management system, obviously their evaluation metrics does not come. So if there are evaluation metrics in existence, then about the evaluation metrics. And if it's something like you've built an application, you've built a website. So how did you do it? What was the design? Like, did you do a designing phase? And once it was ready, what you thought could be improved further? And why did you use this particular tech stack? Obviously, there won't be in-depth questions on that particular tech stack going into the intricate details of that tech stack. But why did you use it? What could be the alternatives are something that you should definitely keep in mind, and prepare notes on each and every project. And before the interview, keep revising them.
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session. And it was really, really very, in detail you have explained. So selflessly, you have explained the entire, the nitty-gritties of cracking this game. So I'm very thankful to you. And thank you, Abhinav, for joining this mock interview. I hope it was
Thank you, sir.
helpful to everyone.
Yeah.
All the best, everyone, and hope to see you get placed really, really very soon.